Hello, hello, and welcome to the Family History Foundation. All right, hope you guys are excited because this is going to be really cool. This is part two in a series of books in historical order. Started off with the Anglo-Saxon reading list in historical order. This is going to be your Norman history reading list, books in historical order. So yeah, this is like pretty amazing stuff. If you're looking for stuff to read on this particular time period, which is enormously popular and enormously just full of different things, if you were to sort of search on your own for books, you'd be completely inundated by search results or things like that. But this is your kind of go-to clearinghouse place. I've done all the research, I've done all the reading, and this is kind of all you need. But, of course, always feel free to explore, because that's the scholarly thing to do. Go out, research what you like to read and what your perspective is. But yeah, here you go. This is going to be really pretty, very, very thorough. And our Norman Dynasty was one of profound change in England. It really, really was. And this Norman reading list are books in historical order as a part of this English reading series. So this is the Norman Dynasty began in 1066, as we all know or should know, when William the Conqueror, Duke of Normandy, invaded England as a rival claimant to the Anglo-Saxon dynasty that had been in possession of England as early as the 6th century. And this is kind of neat because it's not like they just invaded out of nowhere. He was a rival claimant, which means he kind of had a blood claim to these two, to the Anglo-Saxon throne. People sort of often disassociate these two dynasties, but they were very much interrelated, even going from the Normans into the Plantagenets. In fact, the name England literally means land of the Angles. The Angles were one of three invading tribes from across the North Sea, Anglo-Saxon and Utes. And if you want to find out more about that, of course, I have the first part of the series that you can check out. The Norman Dynasty ended with the great English King Henry I. His line was not to pass to a male heir. This is really, really cool. Instead, it passed on to his daughter Matilda, aka Empress Maud, and she married Geoffrey Plantagenet of Anjou, and literally gave birth to the Plantagenet dynasty, which took its name from her husband. And I have a Plantagenet reading list also as well, so that one is actually really cool, super thorough, because it's a very, very long dynasty, and so there's a lot of stuff in that one. You gotta really kind of get psyched up. And after much strife and a civil war, their line continued via their son Henry II, who married the legendary Eleanor of Aquitaine. And you can check out my Eleanor of Aquitaine reading list as well. 15 books that you can check out on the legendary one herself, the Queen of Europe. And so the Norman history list of monarchs, and you can see the genealogy chart at the end of this article, that we will be covering are William the Conqueror, of course, William II, his son Rufus, which means red, normally referring to red hair, Henry I, Beauclerk, Matilda, Empress Maud, and Stephen and Matilda, although whether they were not necessarily a linear claim to the throne, they're included by treaty, which he reigned up until 1154. So here is the list of books that we're going to cover in this reading list. So there's 6 of them, and 1066, The Hidden History in the Bayeux Tapestry by Andrew Bridgeford, which is an amazing read. Queen of the Conqueror, The Life of Matilda, Wife of William I by Tracy Borman. William Rufus by Frank Barlow. Henry I by C. Warren Hollister. The White Ship, Conquest, Anarchy, and the Wrecking of Henry I's Dream, what a cool title, by Charles Spencer. And Queens of the Conquest, England's Medieval Queens, which is book 1 by Alison Weir. So we're starting off with a kind of unusual way to begin the introduction to learning about the Norman Dynasty. And as I'm saying here, I started this reading list with a book not directly about the Battle of Hastings and William the Conqueror, as would be expected, right? That's kind of where you'd think you'd start. But a rather eye-opening book on the Bayeux Tapestry. And this book covers William the Conqueror, his Norman family, as well as the Anglo-Saxon kings contemporaneous to him. And the importance is that the book explains all of that, and you'll get all of that in the book when you read it. Like, if you're looking for that, don't think that'll be left out. But it also provides a rich cultural context, or tapestry, no pun intended, to the Normans and English that is the perfect starting point. And it's really cool because it delves into how the Bayeux Tapestry was woven, where it came from, who the secret author was. I'm not going to reveal that here. But it also, through that, it organizes all the players involved in the tapestry, which was a record of the Battle of Hastings in 1066. So you get all of that, but you kind of get it, and again, woven, I guess these are puns intended, but to get you into the book. And it's superbly written, and I've done a book review on it here, and I guess I'll link that down below, or you can head over to familyhistoryfoundation.com and check for that. And here are a few other books on the Norman conquest, or this era, that I kind of like if you're looking for other stuff. Of course, there's tons out there. Norman Conquest by Mark Morris, which I kind of sadly wouldn't really recommend, because although I love Mark Morris to death, he's absolutely one of my favorite historians. This is a kind of a dry read, not really recommended, but I'm putting it up there because it's Mark Morris still has cachet in my brain. Harold Last Anglo-Saxon King, or just go over to my other video or post on this era and the reading list. So number 2, Queen of the Conqueror by Tracy Borman. And this covers the life of Matilda of Flanders, wife of William the Conqueror. So you're getting William the Conqueror, Battle of Hastings, all that, but you really got to understand who Matilda of Flanders was to kind of enjoy this whole era, because he came, just genealogically speaking, he came with one genealogy attached to the Normans and Anglo-Saxons, but Matilda of Flanders carried this super high just ascendant genealogy herself, and who she was connected to history is just absolutely, it's just a magnetically poignant book about a royal woman descended from King Charlemagne himself, and not many other authors have even attempted to touch her life, and I kind of classify this as a must-read. It's just so amazing. And, the author kind of jumped out at me. If you guys didn't know, Tracy Borman is one of the chief curators for the Royal Historic Palaces in the UK, and has appeared on numerous BBC shows and other documentaries. So she knows her stuff, and she's literally touched and worked with this history for years. So for her to write this and be able to have it to read is kind of unparalleled, unprecedented, really. And number 3, so the next generation down from William the Conqueror, is William Rufus, written by Frank Barlow, part of the English Monarch series. And if you have a chance to read anything from this series, it's pretty, just grab it, because it'll be good. They're sort of meant more for, I think, the experienced historians, because a lot of the stuff that comes out of here is very, very compact and fact-laden, but very, very good stuff. And the one thing I found weird about this is it was kind of harsh towards William Rufus, the subject of the book itself, but it's nonetheless a valuable read in terms of its sort of factual reliability. As an alternative is this book, Emma Mason's King Rufus, The Life and Murder of William II of England. So this is kind of a compelling book as an alternative, but as I say, read them all. Why not? Henry I, also in the English Monarch series by Warren Hollister. This book covers Henry I, wife Matilda, daughter Empress Matilda, as well as Geoffrey Plantagenet, who kind of was the footstone into the Plantagenet dynasty. And the importance of Henry I cannot be overstated in his just where he was in transitioning dynasties, and his reign being passed off to a non-male heir was just, it was a really, really neat thing to sort of look at. And then also his best contribution was his marriage to Edith of Scotland, thereby bringing the Anglo-Saxon and Carolinian genealogies or lines kind of coalesced through their union. So I'm always kind of looking at the genealogy part of things too, which is really, really fascinating, not just the stories, and is really, really worth, if you see it, grab it, as I like to say. Another sort of more recent publication, The White Ship, by Charles Spencer, and covers mostly the children of Henry I and successor to the throne, who died in the White Ship incident 1120, and which led directly to a war for succession known as the Anarchy, in which Henry I's daughter Matilda became an unprecedented female claimant to the kingdom as the granddaughter of William the Conqueror. And this is kind of cool. And at the time I wrote it, it wasn't even out yet, but I was just so intrigued by it. And of course I haven't and read it, and it's really, really all what I expected it to be. So the implications to the Norman royal bloodline that it's covered in here is really worth understanding this whole Norman Dynasty era. And up next is Alison Weir, one of the preeminent scholars of English history and one of my favorites as well, Queens of the Conquest. And this book really kind of is not just focused on, well, it actually is, sorry. Queens of the Conquest touches on the wives of England's conquest era queens. So it's, you kind of, again, expanding out, not just looking at the kings and who they were and sort of treating the queens and the other pieces of the family puzzle as sort of pawns and lesser known influences in the sphere of the lives of what was going on, but sort of elevating the sort of outer reachers and bringing them more into focus, I think, is so valuable to kind of get into. And it's not sidelining the kings or anything like that, because of course, think about any relationship where you have sort of, they're all is sort of a dynamic that you want to capture. And so this book also describes pretty neatly the sort of end of what happens during the conquest era, the war between Empress Matilda and Stephen and Matilda, and the impact that this civil war had on the English population. It was horrendous, honestly, and the way Alison Weir describes it, and I can still sort of vividly capture her words in my head because it was so compelling to sort of see the unrest that had happened all the way up until 1154 and the succession of Henry II. And Henry II, I have to say, is one of my favorite English kings. There are two, and he is one of them. So that's it. I've also kind of gone into more background on the Norman history reading list in this article, but I'll leave you guys to sort of peruse that on your own, as well as enjoy the Anglo-Saxon history reading list. And that's it for now. Thank you for tuning in to the Family History Foundation. I hope you guys found this of value and appreciate you guys' support. So like and subscribe if you want to, if you found it of value, and have a great day. Stay blessed.